Hey there, YouTubers! This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show. Awesome episode of Survivor 49. We have episode 8. A lot of good stuff happened in this episode. You have Hina finally get the victory over Uli, but then slowly let it crumble all the way down by the end of the episode. Exciting in that way. And we have one of the best rounds of Survivor that I've seen in a good little while. So I'm super excited to talk about that, and also obviously a little bit of the revenge of maybe my top player of the season. She's not letting it go, baby. Savannah's ready to keep striking in this game, and I can't wait to talk more about it. Remember to hit the subscribe button to see more content from this channel moving forward in the season. We're going to have some awesome stuff to talk about, obviously, as season 49 continues to roll on our way to season 50. Also, can we look at this Survivor 49 buff? I love it. I want to snuggle it. I want to marry it. And I have a feeling after the season's over, it's going to be a highly coveted collectible with the way this post-merge is going to go. Getting into the episode, they come back from Tribal Council, Juwan, Sage, all of old Hina, super excited because they pulled one over on old Uli. They got rid of Nate, the Mac Daddy, and Rizo, Savannah, and Sophie, Blue Sophie, are rats on a sinking ship. Obviously, they're going to be a little upset about that, but the person who, oddly enough, was maybe on the biggest hot seat in that moment, and she didn't know it, was MC. She just burned an idol nobody knew about. So people obviously are going to be a little speculative about that, and that was a big problem for MC. As we find out later in the episode, because spoiler alert, she gets voted out, that is actually one of the biggest defining factors as to why she does get voted out. How can you trust someone who's not going to tell you about an advantage and then is going to play it when the plan had her safe? So it's like, not only did you not believe in the plan, but you also didn't believe in telling me that you had an advantage. So kind of a double whammy and not trusting your allies, and that kind of screwed MC over a little bit. And I don't disagree with her playing the idol necessarily. You don't know who's with you until the votes come out of the box. And that's really what MC was kind of experimenting with. You play your idol because, I don't know, we haven't gone to Tribal Council yet, so I'll know what's up after this tribal, so I'm going to make sure I play it, and I'll know where we're at once we get through it. So I don't think she was wrong, but it definitely put her in a precarious position for the rest of the episode. But during this night scramble after Tribal Council, what I enjoyed the most was probably Blue Sophie talking to Steven. Steven was the victim of 3 votes against him in this Tribal Council, and Blue Sophie knows that the alliance she's on right now, it's a sinking ship, and she's a rat trying to abandon it. So she right away told Steven, I was one of the 3 votes that tried to get rid of you. So what can we do now moving forward against the bad people, Savannah and Rizo? That's really more or less where it looked like it was going. Whether it was genuine or not, it looked pretty genuine to me, right? Good gameplay on her part because Rizo and Savannah are tied together, which means they're going to be a tied together target. Whereas Blue Sophie, not only does she have an out in Alex who's willing to pull her back in, probably, but 2, she's solo. So people are not going to target one person when they can target the 2 of Savannah and Rizo. So her getting out of there right away, good gameplay on Blue Sophie's part. Now the next morning, right after that Tribal Council, everyone's trying to reel from that. They do a big idol hunt because MC played her idol, which means naturally one is going to be hidden back in the game. And of course, it was. Now the question is, who's going to get it? Me as a fan, I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, Rizo and Savannah right now, they look cooked. So it'd be great if Savannah found the idol. But we only see Alex, Steven, Christina really hunting around in the forest looking for it. And Christina, with a little sticky stick, puts it in the tree and finds a hidden immunity idol. She doesn't have to do anything. There's no hoops to jump through, as God intended. And it's really funny as a fan because when that happened, I was like, oh, Christ, not Christina. For 2 reasons. 1, I know she doesn't have long for this game. And 2, she's not going to use it inventively. So I was like, why Christina? I mean, good for her. If I'm a player in the game and I found an idol, I don't give a shit what anyone at home thinks about it. I'm pretty stoked about it. And she should be. Congratulations to you, Christina. You checked off a huge item on the list that every Survivor fan has while going out there. The problem is, I just don't have any faith you're going to use it really well or in an interesting way that's going to further the season, because I know you're not going to win the game. You're out of here. I just don't know when. Literally, if Steven had gotten it or Alex had gotten it or obviously Savannah, Rizo, either Sophie, MC, all of them, I think I would have rather had the idol than Christina, but unfortunately she's the one who got it. So that's why after the episode, no one really cares to talk about that Christine found the idol, because we know it's going to end in a boring fashion. At least I think so. That's just me predicting based on what I'm seeing in the show. And I think Christine is kind of a nothing burger character while we wait to see what happens with Savannah and Steven and Rizo and Sophie and the other Sophie. Because the ultimate crumbling of Hina is going to happen. So I'm not sure that Christine is going to have a lot of game in her if it's not just hanging on to Hina. Really sweet but also saddening moment for before the immunity challenge was with Savannah. Savannah was talking to Steven, talking about, she's had a lot of trauma in her time at working at as a news reporter, And essentially, it was a really bad, ugly work environment, which is true. Now, I've never worked for like a broadcast station or anything like that, but I've been around a lot of those people. I've had professors that were news reporters, and they don't screw around, man. And they're cutthroat. Like Survivor's cutthroat, trying to get a story, trying to edge each other out all the time. A lot of similarities to Survivor, truthfully. And that's probably why Savannah's so freaking good at Survivor. And her experience in the past, where she was so stressed out how she was ostracized by people in the newsroom. Probably because she's very good, she's very beautiful, and she's relentless. And people get very jealous of talent. Truthfully, they just get jealous of people with talent in Survivor or in the broadcast area. So her being bullied or ostracized, whatever words you want to say, in that environment to the point where her body, her hormones have fallen apart and she cannot have children naturally anymore. That is insane. Because people talk about Survivor, what it does to your body after you're done playing the game, and it can have permanent scarring, mentally and physically. And this is very similar to what Savannah's describing in her newsroom. And you look at her, you go, listen, she's basically perfect. She's in good shape. She's very smart. She smiles and seems happy. She builds good relationships, and she's beautiful. So you're like, how can I really feel bad for Savannah? And I think listening to this background, I think I do. She had a rough time. And I can understand why in the game right now with Sage in particular, it is translating a little bit on how she feels ostracized. Now, it's a little privileged in the game, at least, because she's been on top pretty much the whole time. So like as a viewer, I don't feel bad within the game too much, even though I want her to succeed. But Sage, right now, she's right. Sage is kind of on the top. So Sage can't really hit from that victim standpoint anymore, and it's flipped around. But she's not going to feel isolated for too long, because in the immunity challenge, they get split into two tribes, essentially. I don't know why we insist on doing this. We call it whatever we want. Essentially, Jeff said we're splitting into two separate tribes. The winning tribe of the challenge gets to have a reward, and they get to be immune at Tribal Council to the point where they don't even have to cast a vote. They don't even get to go. So it'll function exactly the same as a regular tribe would in the pre-merge. And it makes you ask the question as a fan, why are we even doing this? Why don't you just make it a pre-merge Tribal Council and just factor that into the numbers, and then you just don't do one after the merge happens? I'm of two minds about it. Most of the time, I do not like split Tribal Councils. I say it's a bad idea. For some reason, you're reshuffling the deck, you're shuffling the Esther sketch way too often, and you're messing with the fabric of the game. I think that is true. I stick to that. However, I have to say, in this episode in particular, it went down beautifully for me and for all the fans, whether they want to admit it or not, purely because it was a split Tribal Council. I give Jeff Probst a lot of shit for the way he runs the game, the structure of it all. But in this instance, you have to tip your hat to Papa Probst, because how the game has been constructed and planned out, it worked out beautifully for the fans. Savannah leaving Tribal Council that night with an extra vote and the immunity necklace, and Rizo with his idol and one of the old Hina gone, and now Sophie, Yellow Sophie's probably going to be anti-Hina leaving it. This is like the best game outcome we could have asked for an interesting season. But getting back to the sequential recapping of the episode, they have the immunity challenge. I looked at the blue tribe and the yellow tribe, and I thought personally the yellow tribe was going to win, because there's zero way Savannah was going to lose this challenge. It's a challenge, one, that favors people that typically have smaller feet or really strong arms. And two, this is a challenge where it's all about willpower. If you're willing to tolerate pain and you're willing to just get into the zone, I didn't think anyone was going to be able to do that more than Savannah. MC is someone that I would pick to win any immunity challenge pretty much at any time. That's if it was based purely on physical traits. But this one, no. Savannah is very light. She's got decent muscle tone in her arms to hold herself up against this thing. And three, her feet are tiny. So there was no way Savannah was going to lose that one. I knew that leopard printed booty was never going anywhere. And that's why I said yellow's going to win. They're going to be safe. Now, what I and no one else could have planned for was Savannah's advantage was to join the losing Tribal Council with, someone like Rizo, who's a top ally, and actually have a vote in Tribal Council. Or not have a vote in Tribal Council. She can bank it for later on in the game. And the latter seems like it's totally not an option, because Rizo is there all by himself with a bunch of Hina and old Uli and stuff. And he's clearly on the outs, but he has an idol. But it gets a lot more complicated than that, because you're looking at Rizo, Sage, Jawan, MC, and then Yellow Sophie all together, and then Savannah coming to vote. But with that concoction, obviously Rizzo's the one they all want gone, except for Savannah and Rizo, of course. So they say, let's throw all the votes on Rizo, hoping he doesn't play his idol. Glory or death, basically, right? However, Yellow Sophie, in confidence, tells MC, I'm going to throw a hinky vote onto Jawan, just in case Rizo plays the idol and one of us is not going to go. MC feels bad, tells Jawan, Yellow Sophie wants to throw a vote on you. Jawan is pissed off about it, so he tells Sage, we have to vote out Yellow Sophie because she's throwing a hinky vote on me. And then Sage tells Yellow Sophie, Jawan's pissed, you want to vote him out. It was this whisper down the lane, which is really funny. And by the end, like, Yellow Sophie's groveling to Jawan, saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And somehow that makes its way over to Rizo. And Rizo and Savannah are basically finding out that it's going to be MC or Sophie, and they really want Sophie gone. Because even on the winning tribe, the blue tribe from this challenge, they were talking about how Sophie, Yellow Sophie, is going to be voted out of the game probably. And they're rooting for it. Even more than just thinking it'll happen. They want it to happen. So Rizo, expertly, the beginning of his expert round this game, said, okay, well, I'm glad it's not me, but what I'm hearing is it's going to be Yellow Sophie and everyone wants it. Why am I going to do the dirty work of everyone in the game? Why don't we instead flip the target onto MC, and then we'll leave the person everyone wants out of the game for the next round? Brilliant. It was so smart. It was such big brain shit to do what he did right there in that moment. Now, thankfully, when it was being pitched to Sage, Sage made it pretty clear. Yeah, that is a really good move for you, but I'm not so sure it's a good move for me. And I think she's right about that. She dissected that piece of it. However, when the chips came on the table, guess what happened? Who got their way? And the proof is in the pudding. At Tribal Council, they sat down, they talked to Jeff, and like a quarter of the way in, Sophie made it clear it's me or MC tonight, which is crazy considering you have Rizo there with his idol. Nobody's voting out Rizo. Why? I mean, at least in theory, you don't vote for him because he has an idol, obviously. And all the shenanigans from earlier in the day made all these Hina not trust each other anymore. I knew MC was a goner though once she stood up and said, Jawan, I need to talk to you, and she made it a live tribal. Once a live tribal happens, I guess it could be 50-50, could go either way. But when she was the one that stood up in that mix and started making all these conversations, she looked defeated. She didn't look like she was about to make a big move. Instead, it looked like it was the last ditch effort of someone who doesn't have a great pitch. And when it's all said and done, every single vote went the direction of MC. All 5 votes, not 6 votes, because Savannah took the time to bank her vote for the future to use it in case she actually is in trouble, because she had individual immunity. There's no reason for her to vote. Rizo wasn't going anywhere. He's a big boy. He has an idol. But he didn't even need to play his idol, so Rizo escapes Tribal Council with his idol, Savannah escapes with the extra vote, and one of the Hina is gone, while Yellow Sophie is pissed at everyone for wanting her gone. So now, Yellow Sophie is a free agent, and Rizo and Savannah, they're happy to look for additional alliance members into their tribe. And Blue Sophie, you think she's not going to be into it? Of course she is. So why not make a new awesome alliance? So sadly, MC is voted out of the game. She was a beast in the immunity challenges, even though Sophie, Yellow Sophie, has come in second and first consecutively. I think without doubt, MC is the one that I'd be the most afraid of in all of these challenges. I wish that she was going to do a little bit more, but she, in her pre-merge edit, was like so low. It was kind of like Hunter from Survivor 46. Even though you knew he was a challenge beast and he could do a lot maybe to make it to the end of the game, there wasn't enough in the edit, even despite getting an idol, that made me believe they were going to stick around for a really long time. So unfortunately, MC has left the game, but she is the next victim in this long string of players who were voted out at split tribal councils in New Era Survivor. It's really ugly, y'all. If you look at this list, it's just a series of black players that have been voted out specifically at split tribal councils. And I don't know what's behind that. I've talked to players from these seasons and said, hey, so it happened your season. You were there. So what happened? How did this come down? And every time I talk to these folks, they say, listen, I understand, but we had this reason to get rid of this person, or this person of color or black person was the main driver of getting rid of that black person. And I get it. And I think they're telling the truth. I think they're right. But it's hard to argue with the results. It's a pattern. Maybe it's a subconscious decision and unconscious bias. I'm not sure exactly what goes into it. But what I do know is, you look at this list, and it is way more colorful than it probably should be. But somehow we're defying the odds, and we are deciding that black players are the safe vote when it gets to a split tribal, where you only have 5 or 6 options. For some reason, most of the time, it ends up being a black player. Forget being a person of color. That's like an obvious. So it's kind of a disturbing phenomenon. I can't really explain it, but it does seem like maybe when there's a formal tribal element, black players are seen as very useful. And when it gets to the point where you choose your allies, black players are not as useful according to this voting pattern. And I know players talk about it on the island. I've seen it. I've talked to players about it. I've heard it online. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to be formally stopping it. Unless you pull Survivor 42 where Drea and Marianne are playing their idols, it looks like it's going to be a very hard thing to stop. How do you fight the results? But overall, excellent episode. I love what's going on with the game right now. We can see how this is twisting into an awesome comeback for Sophie, Savannah, and Rizo. You can see a little bit of the end game players that are shaping up right now. There's main characters in Survivor 49, and there's people who are just kind of there. And I think it's easy to see that now. The problem is I can't distinguish who exactly is going to take the game. It's not absurd that Blue Sophie can win the game. She could take someone's idol. Rizo obviously has a shot at the game. Alex is an underdog. I know that my favorite player is Savannah, and I think Savannah's going to win the game. I truly don't understand how fans can look at this young woman and say, she's a villain. Savannah is a nasty hoe villain. I don't get it. Like, people online genuinely get upset when they see Savannah thriving. I don't know what Savannah's doing to earn the label of villain other than being very good at the most important things in the game. She's a deadly competitor. She's trying to form bonds. And yeah, don't get me wrong. There's times where it feels very fake and forced. But I think in life, it's actually really important to be kind of fake about your social bonds. If you were being real about it all the time, a lot of us wouldn't have any friends. So we're seeing Savannah being aggressively good at that. She didn't go up to anyone and say, you're with me or you're against me. These are not villain things. So unless she does something really vicious, I don't understand how anyone could claim that Savannah is a villain. It's kind of crazy. She's gotten her ass knocked into the dirt in the last episode. And in this episode, she has risen back up. How can you not sit there and be totally full of respect because she pulled herself up with her own bootstraps and got her to where she is right now? And maybe it will see her to a win in this game. I think if Dee did the same thing, people would say Dee Valladares is awesome and a badass. I never saw a villain get thrown Dee's way. I don't understand the villainy thing at all. I think Savannah's kicking ass and she's going to continue to kick ass. And by the end of the season, you're going to love her. But that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and make sure to hit the subscribe button once again so you see more content from the Survivor Super Fun Time show. Otherwise, hope you have an amazing day, everyone. Take care and goodbye.